Hello, this is Lisa, CEO of Sight for White, welcoming you to this week's Talking News on Saturday, the 4th of March 2023. We have just 1 week to go before our Sight for White and White Sense Hearing Loss and Sight Loss Open Day to be held on March the 11th at Wendys Scout Hall in Newport. We are looking forward to welcoming people alongside these 17 organisations we have organised to come on the day. This includes both island and mainland charities and organisations, all of whom offer help, support, advice and information to people living with both hearing and sight loss. If you need any further help or information, don't hesitate to call the office on 522205. We are providing transport from the bus station to Wendys Hall with our Sight for White blue car. The service will run on the hour 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock to Wendys Hall, and you can book your return back to the bus station once you've arrived. Next week, we will be sending out information to everybody with regard to 3 events that are coming up prior to our next newsletter. The first is our new group, which starts on the 22nd of March. The second, a coffee morning in Chillerton. And the third is our coronation party, which doesn't actually take place till May, but we want everybody to save the date. Today the sun is shining, but I believe there is a cold spell yet to come. Thank you, Lisa, CEO, Sight for White.
Hello, this is an article from the Island Echo, read by Sue. Bucking the trend. Shanklin residents will pay less towards town council funds. For the 3rd year in a row, and in stark contrast to other towns across the island, Shanklin residents will pay less towards their town council bill. Shanklin Town Council has been able to reduce its precept, meaning a B and D household will pay an average of 11p less at £89.41 a year. Shanklin Town Council said it has a duty to help residents with a reduction while not cutting back on services, especially as money was tight for many. The precept will help pay for the beach safety arrangements, public toilets and flowers in town. It will also provide a dedicated fund for town improvements, an increase in the monies that could be given to good causes and school crossing patrols. The precept has fallen since 2021 by £1.25 after residents faced a 10% hike in 2020. Shanklin Town Council spokesperson said prudent financial and contractual management meant that the authority was in a very fortunate position where they did not need to increase the precept and in fact provided a slight reduction. They also attributed a lack of borrowing to fund projects like new public toilet buildings and a community library, which has helped keep liability costs down. In neighbouring Lake and Sandown, precepts for residents are skyrocketing, up by 90.1% and 49.9% respectively. It means a Band B and D household in Lake will pay £98.50 a year, a £46.67 rise on last year, and Sandown B and D taxpayers will pay £218.40, a £72.70 increase. The Town Council precept also sits on top of increased fees for the Isle of Wight Council, police and fire services.
This is Michael reading an article from Island Echo. Public consultation launched on electric vehicle charge point strategy. Islanders are invited to have their say on a strategy outlining how the Isle of Wight Council will help bring forward hundreds more charging points for electric vehicles to support the move to greener travel. An 8-week consultation on the electric vehicle charging infrastructure strategy was launched on Friday, and residents have until the 21st of April to give their views. The plan sets out how an extensive network of public charge points will encourage people to switch to electric vehicles, EV, at the earliest opportunity. The strategy proposes some actions the Council can take to support the rollout. In particular, the Council wants to plan for residents that do not have off-street parking and who will be completely reliant on the public network. Councillor Phil Jordan, Cabinet Member for Highways and Infrastructure, said, "Many residents and businesses have already embraced electric vehicles, and we know that many more will be keen to do so over the coming years. We recognise that for everyone to make the switch, the right charging infrastructure will need to be available around the island. We want to give as many people as possible the confidence to switch to an electric vehicle at the earliest opportunity to decarbonise emissions as rapidly as we can. We also want to hear from residents, visitors, local businesses and anyone else with an interest in EV charge points to help shape this strategy. We want to understand how you think we can take this strategy forward and what you think our role should be. The sale of new petrol and diesel cars and vans in the UK will end in 2030. And with the target of achieving net zero carbon emissions by 2040 in the Council's Mission Zero Climate and Environment Strategy, there is a need to ensure infrastructure is in place, enabling residents to make the switch to electric. Councillor Jonathan Bacon, Cabinet Member for the Environment, added, "The Council is committed to working with partners and the community to tackle climate change, and switching the way we power our cars and vans is a critical component of this. At this stage, the number of public charge points that will be required for a full network is unknown. It will be subject to changes in technology, but the number is likely to be a few hundred at least. Like most councils, the Council will seek third-party funding for all its charge points and will work with operators that are able to provide a reliable and competitive service."
This is Patrina reading an article from Isle of Wight Radio. Bid for Ride Pedestrian Improvement Scheme backed by Isle of Wight MP. A major island scheme to create pedestrian routes through the heart of Ryde is being backed by Isle of Wight MP Bob Seeley. Mr Seeley is urging government to support an Isle of Wight Council bid for money that will transform Ryde High Street by making it safer and more pedestrian friendly. The project would also create new amenity areas, increase accessibility and emphasise the historic elements of Ryde Town Centre. The Council is seeking $700,000 from the government's Active Travel Fund, and Mr Seeley has written to Rupert Furness, Deputy Director, Active Travel, at the Department of Transport in full support of the bid. Mr Seeley said, "The island is a trailblazer in terms of walking and cycling routes, as well as being one of the UK's leading destinations for active travel tourism. As a UNESCO biosphere, we are internationally recognised for our approach to sustainable development. This is why I have encouraged the Council to apply for this available government funding. The bid they have developed will make travel through the town an even more pleasant experience for residents and visitors." Linking with the investment in the new interchange on the seafront, it will continue the regeneration of Ryde, promoting healthy, greener travel through the whole town. The scheme forms part of Ryde High Street Heritage Action Zone programme being delivered by a partnership of Ryde Town Council, Isle of Wight Council and Historic England. A successful bid would fund the completion of the scheme, maximising the overall impact. The scheme aims to improve the entrance to the High Street from the south by rationalising and upgrading street furniture, repaving, enhanced planting, new traffic calming measures to slow permitted vehicles and enhance cycle parking.
How to curb your carbon footprint, 7 foolproof methods from the Island Echo, read by Lee. One of the great battles humanity may face is the disastrous consequences of human-induced climate change. Climate scientists are in almost unanimous agreement that humans are causing severe damage to the planet by consuming scarce resources such as oil. However, not everybody agrees that humans are causing the average temperature to accelerate to record levels. The camp is divided between people who believe humans are damaging the climate and those who think it's a conspiracy. Whichever camp you find yourself in, one thing we can all agree on is that giant corporations cause the majority of these emissions. As an individual, you have little impact on the climate unless you're one of the Kardashians. We say that jokingly, of course, but there are still things you can do to manage your carbon footprint. If millions of people take action, it will begin to have a bigger and better impact on the climate. Once massive financial institutions stop financing these colossal companies that consume copious amounts of finite resources, an honest discussion about climate change can begin, although many central governments are now beginning to understand the severity of the issue. Cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin were created as an alternative to the centralized banking system. However, even Bitcoin has come under fire due to the high amounts of electricity used to mine the digital commodity. Experts say that the currency doesn't meet the key sustainability criteria due to its proof of work, mining-based infrastructure. Still, if you own cryptocurrency, you can play various games at a real money Bitcoin casino and try to minimize your carbon footprint in other areas of your life. First, however, let's consider ways to reduce your carbon footprint. Tip 1. Use renewable energy sources. Many people have turned to solar energy in hotter climates to power their homes and businesses. However, this tip relies heavily on where you live and if you can afford solar panels. However, the recent rise in the cost of living due to high energy prices may save you more money in the long run. Solar is just one example of renewable energy. There are other examples too, including wind. Tip 2. Recycle properly. Over the last decade, recycling plastics, metals and other specialist devices such as mobile phones have become more accessible. Dating back a few decades, all rubbish was disposed of in the same containers and placed in the same landfills. Luckily, there is now emphasis on recycling paper, mobile phones and other materials such as plastic. Tip number 3. Watch your diet. Many dietitians and health experts have stated that a meat-heavy diet is one of the individual's most significant carbon footprints. In addition, the meat industry is believed to be responsible for over half of the greenhouse gas emissions from all parts of the supply chain. In addition, studies have shown that eating meat regularly is one of the leading causes of premature death. Red meat has been known to clog arteries and can be difficult for the body to digest fully. Cows kept to create milk, cheese and beef also cause vast emissions. Tip number 4. Use public transport. This point may be redundant if you live in a rural area and it is more challenging to get around. However, travelling by bus or train can be just as quick as using a car if you live in a crowded city. You could also share a car with colleagues on your way to work to lower your carbon footprint. Tip number 5. Cycle more. You can also bypass it and use a bicycle if your trip is within a few miles. Using a bike provides no damage to the environment and is a great way to keep fit. So not only would you be doing your bit for the environment, but you are keeping yourself healthy. Tip number 6. Wear more layers when you're cold. Instead of putting your heating on a high temperature during the winter, why not put on some extra layers to save yourself some money? Of course, if it is cold, then put the heating on. But if you make do without, you not only save yourself money, but you also lower your carbon emissions by using less energy. Tip number 7. Watch your water consumption. When it comes to water consumption, it can be surprising just how much waste can add up. This isn't just from an emissions perspective, but from a cost perspective. Many companies are hiking up their prices in countries like the UK due to cost of living issues and inflation. So now is the optimum time to measure how much water you use and try to bring it down. One example would be, instead of boiling the kettle to the max for a hot drink, just use what you need. The more water you use, the more energy it takes to boil.
Hello, this is an article from the Island Echo read by Sue. Parents face childcare crisis as YMCA announces nursery closure. A lack of funding from the government means that YMCA will be closing its Winchester House nursery in Shanklin next month, it has been announced. It has been determined that the nursery is financially unsustainable, and as a result it will be closing its doors for good on Friday the 14th of April. Parents of children aged 4 months to 5 years will now have to seek alternative childcare. The nursery has been looking after children from 7:30 in the morning through to 6 o'clock in the evening. Philippa Spicer, CEO of YMCA Fairthorpe Group, has said, "This announcement will come as a shock to families, staff and the local community, and we are devastated to be in this position because of the government's underfunding of childcare. We will be engaging with parents to identify early years places for the children in an alternative local setting. And YMCA is working to retain jobs elsewhere in the charity for the staff impacted. It has been confirmed that other activities run from Winchester House are not affected, nor is YMCA's nursery in Newport."
This is Michael reading an article from Island Echo. Adult model escapes prison sentence after vicious chisel attack. 24-year-old Megan Durham has escaped a prison sentence despite stabbing a woman in the head with a chisel 4 times during an attack in Shanklin. Durham, of Waterhouse Lane in Southampton, but formerly of Osborne Road, Shanklin, left her 41-year-old victim with serious injuries to her head and leg during the assault at an address in Atherley Road on the 22nd of November 2021. The woman sustained 3 stab injuries to her scalp and 1 to her forehead, as well as a bite on the thigh. The self-confessed Admira Me model, who charges £12.99 a month to subscribers seeking her explicit content, admitted a charge of grievous bodily harm without intent during a hearing at Bournemouth Crown Court in April 2022. The case was adjourned for sentencing until May, then July, but it wasn't until September last year that a judge finally made a decision. However, instead of being sent to jail, Durham had her sentence deferred for 3 months to improve her behaviour. She was released from custody after spending 9 months behind bars. Then in December, the case was pushed back a further 2 months to Friday, 24th of February. Now, His Honour, Judge Stephen Climie, has handed the defendant a 2-year community order and made her subject to a 5-year restraining order. As a result of Durham staying out of trouble during the period of the deferred sentence, the judge handed her a less severe sentence than if she was to have got into trouble during that period. The time she spent in custody was also taken into account. It was recognised that the attack should have resulted in an immediate custodial sentence, but the decision was taken that support for Durham's mental health issues and the progress she is making took priority. Last week, Island Echo reported on the case in Dean Daly from Bembridge, who escaped time behind bars after stabbing his girlfriend multiple times.
This is Patrina reading from Island Echo. World-famous chef presented with island products whilst en route to ride Eatery Heron. Legendary chef Michel Roux Jr. was presented with a basket of Isle of Wight products on his way to the island with Whitelink to create a memorable meal at leading restaurant Heron in Ryde. Captain Dave Booker handed it over on the bridge of St Faith, sailing from Portsmouth to Fishbourne. The basket contained island ales, Isle of Wight salt and tomato stalls, juices and sauces, with produce from the Garlic Farm and the Isle of Wight Biscuit Company. Heron chef Alex Kimber says he was delighted to welcome the famous chef to his kitchen in Castle Street. Michel Roux Jr. and his family have been leading the culinary scene in the UK for many years, and I personally have been greatly influenced by his passion, style of cuisine and service. Whitelink Commercial Director Phil Delaney adds, "We are proud to sell food and drink from Isle of Wight suppliers in our White Taste outlet on our ships and at our ports. When we heard Chef Michel was travelling with us, we hatched a plan to ambush him on board with some top-quality tasty treats." Chef Michel was in the kitchen at Heron on Thursday the 23rd of February. His speciality menu was due to be repeated on the next 2 evenings for guests who missed out on tables on the original date.
Out of budget, East Cowes seafront redevelopment plans downsized from the Isle of Wight radio, read by Lee. Major plans to redevelop an area of Isle of Wight seafront have been replaced with minor ones, and it was deemed out of budget. It follows a planning application submitted by ERMC on behalf of the Isle of Wight Council to rejuvenate Albany Green on East Cowes Esplanade. In July last year, Ward Councillor Carl Love shared concept images of public space, which included a viewing platform built on a southern water pumping station, steps down to the sea, a viewing jetty and a cafe and exhibition space. Now, the latest official plans from the authority have been scaled back, instead featuring an amphitheatre-style event space, gardens, and reopening the long-closed public toilets. The Isle of Wight Council only had a budget of £600,000, it said, to complete the work, so certain aspects could not be included if others were. For instance, if the viewing platform was preferred, then the project under the promenade building could not go ahead. The funding to redevelop the area comes from the £5.8 million Levelling Up Fund awarded by the government to the island and is one of the 3 projects, which includes the Columbine Building and the Victoria Barracks. An Isle of Wight Council spokesman said the July plans were early concept drawings, which were then adapted to form part of a public consultation to understand what local stakeholders wished to see. They said the results of the consultation found the viewing platform wasn't a priority if it was not accessible to all, which it couldn't be within the budget available. Instead, it was more favourable to make the area under the promenade building suitable for community use, as was including a toilet and possibly a kiosk. They have been included in the new plans as well as improvements to the green area to help as flood prevention measures. In planning documents, ERMC says the area is run down and does not entice people to walk or dwell at East Cowes Esplanade. By improving the area, it says it will draw people from further afield and provide improved facilities and the appearance of the area. You can view the plans 23/00257/FUL on the Council's planning register. Comments can be submitted until March the 24th.
This is Patrina reading from Island Echo. First ever Isle of Wight Dark Skies Festival, resounding success. The Isle of Wight's first ever Dark Skies Festival, funded through the Isle of Wight Area of Outstanding Natural Beauty, AONB, in partnership with New Carnival, has been hailed as a resounding success, with over 1,000 people attending the 2-day event. New Carnival organised the new event, which took place on Friday the 17th and Saturday the 18th of February at Isle of Wight Pearl, with the aim of celebrating and raising awareness of the fantastic dark skies of the Isle of Wight. The festival was put on to support the island's application to become an internationally officially recognised dark skies park. Talks, presentations, workshops, art, film and performance were all on offer, all for free. Hannah Ray, director of New Carnival, has said, "We've been overwhelmed by the popularity of this event and the appetite of the public to find out more about the island's unique dark skies. Support from so many local organisations and individuals helped to make the event a tremendous success." Richard Grogan of the Isle of Wight AONB adds, "The Isle of Wight AONB was very pleased to support this event through the UNESCO Site Across the Channel project, and we hope that everyone enjoyed themselves over this fantastic weekend. Many thanks to the New Carnival Company and all performers and volunteers, and we wish the Isle of Wight Council luck with their bid to the International Dark Skies Association to designate this part of the Isle of Wight as a dark skies area." New Carnival prioritises working with children and young people. For this festival, they work with the Isle of Wight College's art and design students, who created large willow nocturnal animals and also created individual fine art pieces as part of their coursework on the theme of dark skies. Students from years 5 and 6 at Broadley Primary School worked with the Wight Aviation Museum to find out about the Black Arrow project, where rockets were designed, built and tested on the Isle of Wight in the 1960s and 70s. They created junk model rockets with New Carnival artist Gemma Mallinson. Pupils from Five Ways created neon artworks representing spacecraft using glow-in-the-dark tape, as well as a series of photo booth props representing the solar system. Young emerging artists showcased their talents. Alicia French ran workshops making clay asteroids. Stick Sky, Kai Davis, performed a light show with his circus skills. Storyteller Corey Gibbs told stories of the stars, and Eloise Preston ran a creative writing session.
This is Michael reading an article from Island Echo. 2024 dates announced for Isle of Wight Story Festival. Organisers of the Isle of Wight Story Festival have announced that the 2024 event will take place between the 15th to the 17th of February at Key Arts in Newport. Hundreds of children and adults enjoyed this year's event, which celebrated stories of all kinds with authors, theatre music, illustrators and hands-on workshops. Families queued out the doors of Kew Arts and into the streets whilst waiting to get books signed by the likes of Horrible Histories star Simon Farnaby, who was promoting his book, The Wizard in My Shed, and the author-illustrator Laura Ellen Anderson at the Isle of Wight Story Festival this February half-term. The annual festival, which is now in its 4th year, is well established, with families of primary-aged children, but this year it ran an additional day aimed at teenagers. Thursday's events, subtitled A Different Beast, offered an eclectic mix of workshops from model making and songwriting to horrific makeup effects introductory Dungeons and Dragons sessions, and wordsmithing. It also offered powerful drama in the form of Apollo Youth Theatre's production of His Name is Zach, and an equally thought-provoking session from novelist Julia Tufts, whose books Hexed and Twice Hexed deal with themes of bullying and toxic masculinity. Themes of inclusion continued on the Friday and Saturday of the festival with sessions from disability rights campaigner and former CBeebies presenter Kerry Bernal, as well as Gareth Peter, who shared his book My Daddies. There was a strong lineup of local authors and storytellers, including award-winning Kieran Larwood, Neil Layton, Jules Mariner, Holly Midland, Sue Bailey, Debbie Webb, and Petter Rainford. In another innovation year, the Key Arts Cafe hosted local musicians who entertained the crowds while they waited to have their books signed. Those on stage included Simon Whitworth, Black Daniels, Doug Aldred, The Solar Escape, J.C. Grimshaw, and Platform One artists Amy Jolliffe and Ruby Bodnam. Festival goer Helen Smith said, "It's a fantastic event. We look forward to it every year. Big thanks to the organisers and volunteers that make it happen." Isle of Wight Story Festival organiser Sue Bailey said, "We are so pleased that at this year's festival we not only had a lot of fun but also heard some very important messages about identity and inclusivity." Ticket and line-up details for the Isle of Wight Story Festival 2024 will be announced later this year.
This is the second part of the Talking News, read by Jerry
and Jane. Before we start, we're going to read the Society News for the 3rd of March 2023. Swimming is on Monday this week at Medina Pool between 1:15pm and 2:15pm. The cost is £5 plus transport. The group has the whole use of the pool. Our monthly God's Hill coffee morning is on Tuesday at the Old Smithy between 10:30 and 12pm. Yvonne and Linda, our wonderful volunteers, will be on hand for a chat. This is open to everyone, so please pop along and say hello. We will also be in Asda Foyer with our first bucket of the year. Our lovely volunteers will be there between 10am and 2pm, so please say hello if you are in the store. There is yoga this Tuesday at Millbrook between 2pm and 3pm. The cost is £3 to include refreshments. Coffee and chat will be on Wednesday between 10am and 11:30am here at Millbrook House. Please come along and chat with members, friends and staff. Save the date for your diary next Saturday, March the 11th, when once again we will be holding our open day at the First Newport Scout Hall, St John's Road, Newport. We have many exhibitors attending, showcasing their equipment and information. 10:30am to 3:30pm, this event is free to everyone. If you would like more information, please call the office. Our monthly lunch club is on Tuesday the 14th of March at the Stag Inn, Newport. If you wish to come along, please call the office by Friday the 9th. This club will only be held if there are enough people attending.
Due to the popularity of our last event, we are now offering another opportunity to test your super sleuth skills in solving whodunit, whilst enjoying a 3-course meal served by the fabulous Isle of Wight College restaurant. Our murder mystery event is on the 16th of March at 6:30pm and the cost is £18 per person. Exciting news! We have a new social group starting on March the 22nd at Millbrook House between 2pm and 4pm. The group is called Eye on Social, and invited guest speakers will be giving talks on a variety of topics. Our first speaker is Mr. Michael Durrant, and his talk is entitled For Better, For Worse. This group is open to everyone, members, volunteers and friends, so please come along and support this group. The cost is £3 to include refreshments. Advance notice of our King's coronation party on Thursday, May the 4th at the Wendy's Hall, St John's Road, Newport, between 2 p.m. and 4:30 p.m. Afternoon tea will be served along with entertainment. The cost is £5. Once again, this is open to all members, volunteers, family and friends. Numbers are limited. Further details will follow. For any of the information of the activities or events mentioned, please do not hesitate to call the office on 522 205.
We'll now start with the news. Visions of the man's face and the attack. An NHS worker attacked in a car park at St Mary's Hospital has spoken of her scary ordeal. She has thanked members of the public who came to her rescue. On Friday, March the 4th, Nerijas Simicas of No Fixed Abode appeared at the Isle of Wight Crown Court. He has previously pleaded guilty to attempted robbery. The court heard how a woman in her 60s was approached in the hospital's North car park on December the 7th, 2022. Simicas, 47, grabbed hold of her and tried to put his hand in her handbag. He did not manage to steal anything, but he stood on the woman's left foot during the struggle, hurting her, the court was told. He was detained by a member of the public, one of two who rushed to her aid, having heard cries for help. Jim Osborne, defending, said Simicas took full responsibility for his actions and did not know why he did what he did. The court was told that he had no previous convictions. Recorder Malcolm Gibney said Simicas had no valid reason whatsoever to commit the offence, and his behaviour was not the sort that would be tolerated. Simicas was sentenced to 12 months in prison, suspended for 2 years. He will carry out 20 rehabilitation activity requirement days and 100 hours of unpaid work. In a statement read out in court, his victim said, "Having to go to work and park in the same car park as the attack happened makes me very anxious. I check out to see who is in the car park before I get out of my car. This is something I have to do daily. I'm wary when I'm on my own. I have visions of the man's face and the attack." The statement continued, "I know that this was a random attack. I was not a target. I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Nevertheless, this was very scary. I was just going to work."
Transport dream. Wish list includes extra ferry route and railway expansion. A ride to Southampton summer ferry, trains connecting to Newport and Ventnor, and improved mainland connections are on the wish list of transport schemes for the island by 2050. Transport for the South East, TFSE, has unveiled plans as part of a £45 billion blueprint for investment. They are designed to improve connectivity on the island and cross Solent to support sustainable onward connectivity and increase tourism. The schemes are subject to finding funding sources and feasibility studies being carried out. The Isle of Wight Council Cabinet Member for Highways and Infrastructure, Councillor Phil Jordan, said the plan would be interesting for the island as it could subsidise ferry fares, among other things. He said the island was a small part of a huge powerhouse, but he felt the schemes were more likely to come to fruition being part of TFSE than they would be if they were pitched to government separately. The final draft of the Strategic Investment Plan includes 24 transport interventions across the region, but one specifically for the island. It is thought the benefits of the intervention could see 70,000 fewer car trips daily on the island and an additional 165 million gross value added a year. The schemes include improving bus services from Newport to Yarmouth, Ryde and Cowes, railway service enhancements, railway extension to Ventnor and Newport, extending ferry service operating hours and improving quality and frequency of sailings, and a new ride to Southampton's summer ferry route with 3 or 4 vessels. It has been suggested the island investment will partially come from private providers and no public funding would be provided to support the new ferry services. Councillor Jordan said the plan, which has been in the making since 2017, will give the council a foundation to get funding from the government to aid the key transport projects. Otherwise, it would be left to the current operators. The Isle of Wight Council is among 16 authorities asked to approve the final draft of the investment plan before it is sent to government. The delegated decision will be made next Thursday.
Chance to try new Mermaid spiced rum. The Isle of Wight distillery has launched Mermaid Spice Rum, and we have teamed up with the successful island business to give a 70 centilitre bottle to a lucky County Press reader, with another to be won via our Facebook page. The new spirit marries Caribbean rums from Trinidad and the Dominican Republic with local fruits and spices from the Isle of Wight. Mermaid Spiced Rum is the second rum in the distillery's spirits portfolio and will be available in 2 sizes, the 70 centilitre and the 5. Mermaid Spice Rum is the 5th edition of the Mermaid Spirit range, which includes Mermaid Gin, Mermaid Pink Gin and Mermaid Zest Gin, along with Mermaid Salt Vodka. The unique spirit was inspired by a long history of Caribbean rums landing on Isle of Wight shores. To win a bottle, answer this question: what size bottles will the rum be available in? Please email your answer to competition@iwcp.co.uk with your full contact details by midday on Friday, March the 10th. You must live on the Isle of Wight to enter, and you must be aged over 18. Terms and conditions apply.
Savage attacker is jailed. A man who left his victim for dead after a brutal attack has been jailed. Felix Hetherington of St Edmund's Walk in Wootton was sentenced at the Isle of Wight Crown Court on Friday, February the 24th. He was found guilty of inflicting grievous bodily harm following a trial in November. He denied a more serious charge of causing grievous bodily harm with intent. It relates to a serious assault at an address on Caesars Road, Newport, during the early hours of February the 21st, 2021. The 28-year-old had been in custody since the guilty verdict. During the trial, it was heard how Hetherington's victim, who lived in the same building, sustained a catalogue of serious life-threatening injuries. He suffered a bleed between his skull and brain, fractures to his jaw, a misalignment of his lower spine, and a significant bleed in his abdomen. The court heard he had not had surgery. If he had not had surgery, he would have died of blood loss. Tim Moores, prosecuting, said Hetherington, his girlfriend and the victim had been drinking together on the night in question. Mr Moores told the court Hetherington got angry with the victim after his TV was knocked off its stand. He said a witness said they saw Hetherington kick the victim in the face while he was on the floor. The witness said as she attempted to drag the victim out of the window and onto the flat roof, Hetherington stamped on his chest. An ambulance later arrived and he was taken to hospital. An impact statement read to the court revealed how, since the attack, the victim had also suffered mental health problems, sleep deprivation, and was very forgetful. Mr Moores said the victim was scared to go to Newport and had been forced to move out of his house. Defending, Christopher Pick said Hetherington had no history of violence. He argued his client had underlying mental health problems which should have been taken into account. Recorder Malcolm Gibney said Hetherington had committed a bad episode of gratuitous offending on an innocent man, and his assault was a persistent, prolonged and inexcusable. He said the injuries and psychological impacts to the victim have significantly affected him. Hetherington was sentenced to 4 years.
Back on the picket line with more to come. Strike action by members of the NEU Teaching Union meant more picket lines outside Isle of Wight schools on Thursday, with many partially closed. Members of the NEU Teaching Union are calling for funded pay rises for teachers as schools find themselves footing the bill from their already dwindling resources. Teachers are also due to walk out on March the 15th and 16th. The government has condemned the strike action. Isle of Wight NEU President Claire Rennie, who is a teacher at Christ the King College, told the county press, "We have had a positive response, lots of honking of horns, lots of thumbs up, people stopping and talking to us. It's been fantastic. We are disappointed there has been no revised offer from the government." Katie Bell, Head of Business and Criminology at Ryde Academy and NEU District Secretary, said, "We're fighting for better funding. As you know, we have high-need pupils whose needs aren't being met. Teachers are buying glue sticks, and at the same time they have seen their pay decreased since 2010. They're taking home 20% less since then. We feel passionately we have to come out and keep the protests going. We want the government to negotiate sensibly."
Carer seen on CCTV assaulting woman. A carer for a woman with dementia lashed out and struck her after he deliberately hid her bag and caused her to become agitated, and it was caught on CCTV, a court was told. Carl Stay Sothcott of Star Street, Ryde, admitted assaulting the woman by beating on July the 7th last year at his previous hearing at the Isle of Wight Magistrates Court on January the 20th. Employed as a personal assistant to take care of the woman, Stay Sothcott, 58, was caught assaulting her on CCTV installed in her Newport home by her family. They were concerned he was starting his care late and finishing too early, but wanted video evidence. The assault then came to light, and his victim had no memory of it. When viewing the footage, Stay Sothcott was seen hiding the victim's bag behind a sofa cushion after he became annoyed at her banging a pan in her kitchen, said Liz Miller, prosecuting. When she couldn't find her bag, she became agitated, which led to a confrontation with Stay Sothcott, who lashed out and hit her. In the video, Stay Sothcott told her he had hidden the bag behind the cushion, and his victim appeared content. For some unknown reason, the police offered him a conditional caution, said Miss Miller. The family now find it extremely difficult to trust anyone to care for their mother because of what has happened. For Stay Sothcott, Jim Osborne said his client deeply regretted what he did that day, and he had looked after the victim for 6 months with no incidents before the assault. He was in a situation he was not properly trained for. He did not have the skills to deal with it properly. In 2011, Stay Sothcott suffered a serious attack which left him with significant mental health problems, and ADHD being one of them, Mr. Osborne added. As a result of a previous offence of assaulting a police officer last year, he lost his job as a porter at St Mary's Hospital and was handed a year's probation. After considering a report, magistrates allowed Stay Sothcott to remain on the order with 100 hours unpaid work. He must pay the victim £75 compensation with £85 costs and £114 surcharge.
New special school set to be built. A bid to build a special school has been accepted. Cabinet Member for Children's Services, Councillor Debbie Andre, hopes it will be open by 2025. She said, "I'm absolutely delighted the funding has now been agreed. The school will offer primary and secondary education. The island has the 5th highest number of pupils with EHCPs in England, and the existing maintained special schools are full." The council, in partnership with Hampshire County Council, submitted a bid to the Department for Education, the DFE, last year to build a school for up to 75 pupils next to Carisbrooke College. Now a process has begun to invite potential organisations hoping to run it to apply for the contract. The successful organisation is expected to be notified this autumn. Councillor Andre said, "This is the result of much hard work from our officers working closely with the DFE for the benefit of our island parents and children. We have listened to parents who've been telling us this provision is much needed on the island. The DFE has set aside £2.6 billion across the UK. A letter from Minister Claire Coutinho to Isle of Wight MP Bob Seely also confirmed the news. Mr Seely said, "This is important news and I am delighted ministers responded so positively. I would like to thank all those education and council officers involved."
Parents are fined for absences. Parents have been left out of pocket after the Isle of Wight Council took them to court over school absences. They were accused of being the parent of a child of compulsory school age registered at a school who failed to attend regularly and were found guilty in their absence at Portsmouth Magistrates Court on February the 13th. A Ryde couple whose 6-year-old missed school for 2 weeks in September must pay £168 each. Fine, court costs and surcharge as well. A Yarmouth couple whose 15-year-old failed to attend for 1 week in July must pay a total of £408 each. A Ryde woman whose 6-year-old did not attend for 2 weeks in September must pay £196. Reporting restrictions mean that the parents cannot be identified.
Proposed for bed and breakfast. A once established Isle of Wight bed and breakfast could be turned into a youth facility where teenage care leavers would learn to become independent. Lyndhurst Guest House on Royal Crescent, Sandown, has been for sale for over the past year. Now, White Oak Youth Services has stepped in, proposing a change from hotel to residential care for young people. Plans have been lodged with the Isle of Wight Council. A letter from estate agent Hose Rhodes Dixon confirms there have been no offers to buy the former business, which ran there from 1999. The proposal to use the building as a home for former looked-after young people, those who are approaching adulthood. Planning agent BJC Planning said it would be a vital stepping stone for 16 to 18-year-olds, each with their own living space. The 9 bedrooms would stay as they are, with communal areas changed to provide kitchen, dining and living facilities. Upgraded facilities would include fire alarms, adding additional emergency lighting and fire extinguishers and a security system. Round-the-clock support means the ex-hotel's rear annex would be used as overnight staff accommodation.
More than £33,000 will help boost existing cash to support new parents on the island. The Isle of Wight Council has revealed what it means to be a trailblazer for parental support after an extra £33,000 in government cash was confirmed. In 2015, the Isle of Wight was among the first to introduce the Family Hub network and is now one of 14 local authorities included in the Department for Education's Trailblazer scheme for family hubs and Start of Life programmes. The new money is on top of a previous £2.6 million for programmes until 2025. Here it means a continued focus on mental health from the moment pregnancy is confirmed to around a year after giving birth, as well as support for parent-infant relationships and infant feeding. There will be access to a range of support, including working with other Trailblazer authorities to share best practice and support. Isle of Wight Councillor Debbie Andre, who leads services for children, said, "This funding will be used to expand the range of services working together to incorporate more localised face-to-face and virtual support." Bob Seely, MP, who helped get the island included, said, "It's important to support families bringing up young children. Our early years are formative and parents should have access to the help that they need."
Internships at the Abbey. Young men are being offered the chance to stay at Core Abbey for 2 months this summer as part of an internship opportunity. Men aged between 18 and 25 are invited to apply for the course, which runs during July and August. 2 months' stay in the monastery is offered with full board. In return, interns are expected to throw themselves into the life of the monastery, both its prayer and its work. To find out more information, email interns@core.org.
Man denies assaults. A man will face a jury trial accused of kicking a police officer following an accident with his van on the Military Road, then headbutting another officer at Newport Police Station. Andrew Marshall of Cornwall Road, Ventnor, denied 2 counts of assaulting an emergency worker, namely police officers, by beating at Brystone and at Newport on February the 2nd, when he appeared at the Isle of Wight Magistrates Court. Island magistrates accepted jurisdiction of the case, but the 42-year-old elected to face trial at the Isle of Wight Crown Court. He was bailed to a hearing on March the 27th.
Move against tax hike fails. Hopes of reducing an Isle of Wight Town Council's eye-watering precept increase have been scrapped. Sandown residents are in for a 49.9% Town Council tax precept rise, which will see bills increase an average of £72.70 a year. Sandown Town Councillors Debbie Andre and Emily Brothers argued formal consent was never given and that the council had followed an incorrect process, but their claims were disputed by other members. An extraordinary meeting was called with the support of Councillors Sue Betts and Heather Humby to determine the budget and to hold a new vote. In a joint statement released on Wednesday, March the 1st, Councillors Andre and Brothers announced that had been cancelled as Councillor Betts had withdrawn her support. It meant the budget could not be reconsidered. Posting on her Facebook page, Councillor Betts said she had done a thorough investigation of policies, procedures and standing orders and had taken advice. She posted she was satisfied there was no need to take the matter further. Councillors Andre and Brothers said their intention had been to try to reduce the precept hike by as much as possible. They said, "We are extremely disappointed our fellow town councillors have countenanced such a financial burden on residents. This includes a £500,000 loan for 2 toilet blocks one Sandown Town Council doesn't even own, whilst there is a surplus of over £200,000 in the bank." Both councillors said they will continue to lobby for good governance and responsible budgets as the cost of living crisis continues. Band D households will pay £218.40 a year towards STC on top of fees set by the Isle of Wight Council, Police and Fire Services. Last year they paid £145.70. Funds have been set aside for CCTV installation, beach safety schemes and replacement decorative lighting. Financial support to Sandown Carnival Association has been reduced from £5,000 to £2,000. Support for Sandown and Shanklin Independent Lifeboat remains at £2,000.
Police campaign cracks down on mobiles at the wheel. The use of mobile phones behind the steering wheel is being targeted by police until March the 12th. Using a mobile phone while driving is one of the fatal 4 factors, and it can significantly increase your chances of being involved in a collision where you or others are seriously injured or killed. Patrols and safety checks will be carried out, including on the island. If you are caught, a £200 fine and 6 points are to be expected. There could also be a lengthy driving ban and a £1,000 fine if you're caught twice. You could even have your licence revoked. Chief Inspector Chris Spellerberg of the Joint Operations Road Policing Unit said, "Using a mobile phone while driving is unacceptable, reckless and incredibly dangerous. just being distracted from the road ahead of you for a split second could result in a serious crash. Focusing on the road and traffic conditions is always more important than using a mobile phone. Even hands-free devices can be distracting enough to divert your attention away at a critical moment.
Released after a sticky situation. 2 rescued razorbills have been released back into the sea off St Catherine's Point. They had been found there in January, close to the lighthouse, washed up on the beach and covered in oil. Luckily, the pair were spotted by a passerby, plucked from their plight and transported for treatment at a vet surgery in Carisbrooke. After a check-up and many washes to remove the oil, a primate rescue centre was asked to rehabilitate them. In recent weeks, they have been cared for at Monkey Haven, near Newport, where daily deliveries of fresh sand eels were organised to provide for their breakfast and dinner. They also practice their swimming in the RSPCA's specialist pool. Week by week, the birds recovered and regained their strength. Eventually, beads of water started running off their feathers again, a sign their waterproofing, vital for their release, was coming back. After 6 weeks of full-on care, they were both finally ready to return to the wild. A spokesperson for Monkey Haven said, "We're so proud of our amazing team of keepers for the incredible care and attention they gave the razorbills throughout their 6 weeks of rehabilitation. This was in addition to the hard work they put in every single day, looking after all the rescued animals. You did it, and we couldn't be prouder."
Fire breaks out at HMP Isle of Wight. A fire at HMP IW led to fears over the safety of prisoners and staff on Tuesday, February the 21st. The county press was told it was started by a prisoner, and the incident prompted a response from Hampshire and Isle of Wight Fire and Rescue Service crews amid fears over the safety of prisoners and staff. The fire service confirmed 4 appliances from East Cowes, Newport and Cowes were called to the prison at around 6 p.m. An aerial ladder platform and an incident command unit also attended. The flames were put out using a hose reel jet. The Ministry of Justice confirmed it was a small scale fire and no one was hurt.
Pop the Prosecco, but only indoors. An East Cowes cafe, which won public support on social media, has been given the green light to sell alcohol, with conditions. The owners of Betty's Door on Clarence Road had faced resistance from a small band of neighbours who thought allowing it to serve alcohol would lead to an increase in noise and nuisance. This week, however, the Isle of Wight Council agreed to allow it to do so every day from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m, with extended hours until 8:30 p.m. on Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve and during Cows Week. Speaking at a licensing hearing, co-owner Aidan Jones said it was not a place for mass drinking, adding the plan is to introduce small quantities of alcohol to the menu to offer a finer experience for loyal and visiting customers. He said it would also allow the cafe to maximise its income during the tough times faced by the hospitality industry. With a focus on afternoon tea, Mr Jones said loud music was not allowed at Betty's Door. He said many other nearby establishments already hold alcohol licences and can serve customers much later, and argued it was highly unfair to single out his cafe. Among the objectors was East Cowes Town Council, which said it had received concerns from residents and that meant it could not support it. It said it had issues with the proposed later opening hours. A written objection raised a concern that children may hear foul language, breathe in smoke and witness disorderly conduct from those standing outside. It said the building is not sufficiently soundproofed. Environmental health officers raised no objection to the application and said the licence was unlikely to result in any unreasonable disturbance to neighbours. The committee approved the application, but members added 2 conditions which mean alcohol cannot be taken outside and can only be served with food. In addition, an agreement with police will require staff training, the keeping of logbooks and ID checks with a Challenge 25 policy. Other restrictions including staff refusing to sell alcohol to anyone who is believed to be drunk. A 21-day appeal period has started and future concerns should be raised with the Isle of Wight Council committee members said.
Work gets underway on landslip clearance. Work to repair a landslip-hit road in Wroxall has finally got underway. Fallen debris has been removed and a temporary wall made of concrete-filled sandbags with suitable drainage is being installed. Since November, temporary traffic lights have been in operation in St John's Road after an earth bank believed to have been built following railway tunnel work collapsed. Now a protective matting has been applied to prevent further erosion and help stabilise the land ahead of a long-term solution. The road has reopened to two-way traffic. Councillor Phil Jordan, the authority's cabinet member for Highways and Infrastructure, said, "I'm sure that this is the news everyone in Wroxall and those who use this road regularly, and it's a busy road, have been waiting for. These works grant our engineers time to design potential long-term options for the section of the embankment. We will of course continue to monitor the embankment, and should additional ground movement occur, there may be need for temporary traffic measures to be reintroduced. There was a delay because of an investigation and survey work had to be carried out alongside Island roads before any remedial work could take place," the Isle of Wight Council said.
Well-loved festival postponed. This year's Rhythm Tree Festival has been postponed. In a statement, the event organisers said financial pressures meant it would not go ahead in 2023. The rising cost of fuel, production, labour and the performers themselves, alongside the cost of living crisis, are all being blamed. A spokesman said their decision to halt this year's festival was made to protect the life and longevity of Rhythm Tree, adding the ecosystem has changed. Their statement read, "From our original home at Three Gates Farm to our most recent beautiful site at Stylet Farm, you have been there for us. We've received so many positive comments about Rhythm Tree 2022 and enjoyed seeing all your fantastic pictures of your experiences topped off by the stunning sunset. However, whilst running an independent festival is rewarding, unfortunately it comes with its challenges. We want you all to know that we are doing everything possible to ensure Rhythm Tree Festival returns in full for 2024. This has been the hardest decision to date and one we haven't taken lightly. In July, some intimate gigs will still go ahead at the picturesque site near Thorness Bay," organisers said.
Work before the tourist season. Utility works at Fort Victoria, originally planned to take place during the Easter holidays, will now be finished before the vital tourist season. Concerns were raised by businesses at the popular tourist attraction when they found out communications firm White Fibre was due to carry out work in the area. It would have meant a closure on the road leading to the popular country park, and businesses said that they feared a significant loss in takings. Fort Victoria in Yarmouth is home to traders reliant on the tourist trade and local visitors, including the Reptilium, Fort Victoria Museum, the Planetarium and the Imaginarium. On Tuesday, an Island Road spokesperson said, after concerns were raised regarding the road closure of West Hill Lane, all parties have worked together and reached an agreement to bring forward the works, which will now finish on March the 31st, before the start of the Easter holidays. As a utility company, White Fibre has a legal right to undertake work on the highway to upgrade broadband infrastructure. Island Roads cannot prevent this work. Our role is to seek to minimise disruption on the network. We are pleased we have been able to reach an agreement.
Free school meals increase. The number of children eligible for free school meals on the Isle of Wight has risen 63% in the past 4 years. The shocking figure was revealed as the Isle of Wight Council announced a fourth food pantry will be set up on the island, offering food at discounted rates to those who need it. The matter of child poverty was highlighted by Councillor Michael Lilly at the Council's Cabinet meeting on Thursday night, 4 years after his motion calling for the authority to reduce child poverty in the island was passed. Councillor Lilly called for the authority to reaffirm its commitment to reducing child poverty. He wanted specific targets set to tackle food insecurity here, after a recent report from the Joseph Rowntree Foundation estimated 20 to 25% of children are in poverty. Councillor Debbie Andre, Cabinet Member for Children's Services, said a good indicator of child poverty is free school meal eligibility. Between autumn 2018-19 and autumn 2022-23, the number of children eligible for income-related free school meals increased from 2,452 to 4,008. Councillor Andre said the council would ensure future money would be targeted at the most vulnerable children. She highlighted existing schemes run by the council and government through Connect 4 Communities, community pantries established on the island, free activity schemes over the school holidays, which have included food, and said they were accessed by nearly 900 children during the Christmas holidays. Councillor Andre insisted her group's 2023-24 budget proposals would prioritise vulnerable islanders and continue to support Connect 4 Communities. Councillor Lilly plans to revisit the impact of poverty when a report is published by Health Watch Isle of Wight investigating its links to physical and mental health. In his role as Mayor of Ryde, Councillor Lilly's annual Pancake Day challenge would highlight poverty and food insecurity, as well as raising funds for food projects in Ryde.
Dementia care was on the agenda. The gap between health services and social care and the issues of communicating with loved ones with dementia were among many tackled in Bembridge last week. More than 80 healthcare professionals, volunteers and carers discussed the future of dementia care and sought to raise awareness of the devastating disease. Hosted by Lady Sally Grills and Isle of Wight Councillor Joe Robertson, the panel included Dr Hilda Hayo, Chief Executive of the charity Dementia UK, Darren Cattrall, Chief Executive of the Isle of Wight National Healthcare Trust, and Councillor John Nicholson, Chair of the Isle of Wight Council's Health and Social Care Scrutiny Committee. The panel acknowledged that there is sometimes a gap in provision between health and social care services. They referred to the positive role played by Admiral nurses. How to effectively communicate with someone with dementia, particularly those who wrongly believed a loved one is still alive, was also addressed. Councillor Robertson, who is a national advisor to Dementia UK, praised the gathering's wealth of knowledge and personal experience. Meanwhile, Bembridge's Don Webber is preparing to walk the Camino de Santiago in aid of Dementia UK after his friend was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. He wants to complete the 1,000-mile pilgrimage through Spain and Portugal this spring.
Ferry Firm celebrates heritage. Red Funnel has played its part in helping deliver informative and fun heritage and marine activities to the wider Isle of Wight community. Earlier this month, the Cross Solent Ferry Company transported the Maritime Archaeology Trust Team, MAT, and their discovery bus to Arreton's Isle of Wight Shipwreck Centre and Maritime Museum for an open weekend. The team brought hands-on displays and educational and interactive videos to the centre at Arreton Barnes. Among those to pay a visit were Mrs Susie Sheldon, JP, HM Lord Lieutenant of the Isle of Wight. Franz Collins, Red Funnel's Chief Executive, said, "We are committed to supporting the island's amazing community and businesses. We were pleased to host some of the team from the MAT."
Licence revoked. A pensioner's driving licence has been revoked after a collision in Staplers Road and a roadside eye test. The man in his 80s was involved in the accident on Tuesday evening at around 6:30 p.m. and involved a Suzuki Liana and a Yamaha motorbike.
Musicians support Ukraine. The musicians of the Isle of Wight demonstrated their support for the people of Ukraine with a day of singing and playing at the Key Arts on Sunday. From jazz to folk, blue to Afrobeat, there was something for everyone at the day-long Music for Ukraine session. So far, more than £2,500 has been raised for the East Cowes-based MAD-Aid charity that is supporting the people of Ukraine both at home and here on the island. Event organiser Jim Thorne said donations are continuing, but MAD-Aid raised over £2,500 on the day itself, which was excellent. This now makes a total of £8,000 raised by Music for Ukraine in 2022 and 2023 in 3 days of Isle of Wight music. Key Arts was very busy from 11 a.m. onwards, and all acts had good-sized audiences. There was a wonderful convivial atmosphere between audience and musicians, with a number of musicians joining in with other bands. I am very grateful to everyone who gave up their spare time to play and support the event. Thanks to John Titley and Steve Smith, who helped with the sound engineering. This now makes a total of £8,000 raised by Music for Ukraine in 2022-2023 in 3 days of Isle of Wight music.
A TV documentary charts island lives. A documentary series celebrating the natural beauty and historical heritage of the Isle of Wight began last night. Isle of Wight, Jewel of the South, follows the lives of islanders whose families have lived here for generations. The first episode of the 4-part Channel 5 series featured Bembridge fishmongers Mike and Ruth Curtis, who run Captain Stan's. Narrated by island favourite Alan Titchmarsh, Britain's busiest island was shown out on Thursday. But if you missed it, don't panic. You can watch it again via Channel 5's catch-up service. The series, which airs at 8 p.m, also follows Sandown resident Christine Jackson, who helped clean up the promenade ahead of the town's annual regatta. Twins Philip and Nigel Brown, who care for the gardens at English Heritage Osborne Estate in East Cowes, also appear. Dan Subani and his wife Tracy, who run Sandown Airport, feature in the show, as well as local detectorist Justin Kavanagh, who discovered a rare Roman coin.
Elite's form runs to plan. Some of the island's top athletes were in action, putting in some notable performances, particularly British international runner Henry McLuckie. After his outstanding win in the Armagh 5K, Henry competed in 2 big national indoor events, both with success. In Birmingham, he lined up in the final of the men's 3,000 metre at the British Championships, which was acting as a trial for the forthcoming European Championships. In a very strong international field, Henry used his strength to take the lead. Just after the halfway point, his injection of pace splitting the field. He battled hard to hold his position until the last 400 metres, where some of the more experienced internationals gradually passed him. Henry finished an excellent 4th place, just outside of the medals, but was rewarded with a huge personal best of 7 minutes 55.82 seconds. His proud parents, Stuart and Gina, and Grandad Nobby Nash were in the stands watching him race. Back on the track less than a week later, Henry was representing his university, St Mary's, at the British University's Indoor Championships again over a 3,000 metre. He cruised through his heat on Saturday and in a slower tactical final on Sunday was just pipped by James Hennigan of Cardiff University in just 0.35 of a second in a time of 8 minutes 18.96 seconds. Henry will now get back into the heavier training to prepare for this summer's outdoor season.
Tres Amigos set the pace. Isle of Wight competitive basketball has returned again to the island with the PC Consultants 3x3 League after COVID-19. After almost 3 years of waiting due to the pandemic and ongoing issues with venues, the league is finally underway with a remodelled version. 2 divisions of 6 teams have been created, with the aim of teams playing 2 matches each week. In Division 1, Tres Amigos sit at the top of the table, with Pippin Ain't Easy sitting comfortably in the second place. However, it is the male men, the ones to watch, having climbed from last to fourth in the space of a week. Division 2 has the league's veteran team, 3 Blind Mice, sitting top, with a game in hand over 3 Stars and the Sun, who they beat 2 weeks in succession.
Rides A team complete mission. Ride A are crowned championships of Division 1 of the Isle of Wight Table Tennis League, with still 2 weeks to go to the end of the season. The A team remain unbeatable at the top with 100 points, with 2 games in hand over their nearest rivals, Ride C, with 84 points. Ride teams remain dominant in the division this season, taking up the top 4 places, although Newport Vix A and Shanklin Warriors are both in with a chance to move up the table, with Shanklin in the stronger position. Vix and Shanklin met this week, with the Warriors coming out on top with a 7-3 win. But Vix Anna Joyce, soon to be playing in the Island Games in Guernsey, was in good form with 2 wins, including a 5-set victory over top-rated Don Hobbs. Player of the month was Shanklin's unbeatable Michael Bulpit. Shanklin's Skuas, who lie 8th in the table, had an unexpected 8-2 win over third place Ride B, with Paul Rainford and Graham Evans won their 3 matches, which included double victories.
Hewish leads superb Island comeback. A remarkable second-half comeback staged by the Islanders earned them a share of the spoils in an entertaining mid-table battle on Saturday. Travelling to North Hampshire with a scratch team yet again, the team was able to put their injury list woes to one side and return to the island, feeling a little disappointed not to have taken maximum points. However, they will have been buoyed by such an incredible comeback after a poor first half. Isle of Wight Rugby Football Club were under the cosh from the referee's first whistle, defending an extraordinary slope in the first half. The first 10 minutes saw the home side cut loose and score 2 tries as the Islanders struggled to repel strong running from the Overton back row. After the third restart, the Islanders managed to build some momentum and hold some possession, coupled with some driving runs from captain Andrew Brown, his centre partner Nathan Rolfe and the evergreen Martin Newnham. This allowed the Islanders to gain some possession, with player coach Keith Wallace barrelling over for their first score, with Ricky Kays converting. The home side again used the slope, running riot for the remainder of the first half, scoring a further 3 tries, including a pushover try. With the score at 33-7, it looked like being a long afternoon for the Isle of Wight. However, the Islanders managed to retrieve the ball from the kick-off, Cam Brown's winning the ball into the air, allowing them to pressurise Overton's 22. Carl Davey took advantage, reaching over the line out to score, with Keys adding the extras to pull it back to 33-14 at half-time. The Islanders rolled the dice by bringing on George Hewish after injury, yielding instant results. Hewish's direct return turned the course of the game, aided in no small part by slope advantage, and in spite of losing the influential Keys to injury. Strong carries and possession allowed the Rangers to put pressure on Overton, who buckled thanks to a mixture of high tackles and breakdown infringements, allowing them to gain control. A break by Brown from the Island 22 allowed Hewish to chip, chase and score under the posts. The first of a superb hat-trick of tries, he converted the last 2. In the final minutes, further penalties allowed the Islanders to kick into the opposition 22, with Hewish controversially denied a score under the posts after the referee called back play for an Isle of Wight penalty rather than hand them the advantage. Hewish's penalty from out wide to win the game drifted just wide.
Our White Memories this week look at island pubs where Albany Barracks soldiers whiled away the hours. Albany Prison started life not as a purpose-built prison, but as a conversion and modernisation of the Parkhurst Army Barracks. Many of the original buildings can still be found within the prison structure and plainly recognised. For many years, Newport could be regarded as a garrison town, seeing as there was always a regiment of troops stationed at Albany up to the early 1960s. As was popular in the past, a good night out frequenting the local hostilleries was part of a soldier's life, and so it was the town of Newport where off-duty troops would exercise their freedom. Between Newport and Parkhurst Barracks, a trail of watering holes existed, making their journeys much more enjoyable. The first stop would be the Trooper Inn at the bottom of Honey Hill. A soldier needed refreshment before climbing the hill, and after reaching the top, he would find the Britannia pub. Thirsty work for a soldier it was climbing up that hill. The next stop would be the halfway house for a little added refreshment before the last pint for the road at the Castle and Banner. From there it was a short walk to the barracks where the Sergeant Major would tuck them up in their beds for the night. Who knows how many men found themselves on a charge for tardiness or for being inebriated? I should imagine quite a few. Today none of these establishments still exist, and it is possible the end of Albany Barracks played a part in their demise. Most have now been turned into housing.
And now my view. Rebecca Ron Coroni writes, I know why nurses need to strike now. I trained as a nurse in 1996, aged 29, when I had 3 young children and a husband who had just been made redundant. I received a basic bursary of around £5,000, which is equivalent to £12,008.23 today, plus a top-up to £7,600, which is equivalent to £18,012.34 today, as I had 3 children and an unemployed husband. There were no student loans. Under current circumstances, there is no way that would have been possible. We were seen as part of the service we were training to become part of. A little like a soldier in training. Will they be paying student loans next? From the first placement onwards, we worked long shifts, studied long hours, commuted, sometimes daily, to QA Hospital Nursing School and Portsmouth University, and were expected to follow the Nursing and Midwifery Council Professional Code of Conduct to the letter from the very beginning. In our professional code of conduct, it was drummed into us that as nurses we were accountable practitioners, which meant that if we failed to put the patient's health and safety first, we would be held liable and could be struck off and charged if necessary. So if a doctor made a mistake on a prescription and you gave the medication without checking the prescription and patient, you were equally culpable for any consequences. It gave nurses the power to say no to policies and procedures that go against the patient's best interests, and in theory protected them for doing so. Nurses are not just striking because of poor pay. Of course, that is a part of it. People need to be able to live in a warm house, eat good food, wear comfy shoes, rest. But the huge demoralisation of being forced to work in conditions that are unsafe for patients puts nurses in a terrible position. According to their professional code of conduct, and let's face it, their humanity, they must speak up and about what is happening within their wards. Because right now the professional code of conduct is being made a mockery of by this government. No nurse would choose to leave patients in pain, hungry, lonely, lying in urine and overdue their medication. Yet every single day they are forced to prioritise the most pressing tasks only a qualified nurse can do, knowing that there is inadequate staff to wash, feed, turn, reassure and tend the patients as they should be nursed. It is soul-destroying to work in a job that you have a true vocation for and be set up to fail in your duty every single day. You wonder if by carrying on you are colluding with a cruel system. But if you leave, what will happen to the patients? Please support the nurses when they talk about why they are striking. They are speaking for us all. They are representing a voice that needs amplifying to the point of deafening for the government to start listening. We need to support them in order for them to support us. They are speaking the truth to power. I support them with every fibre of my heart.
Public information this week features red kites. They do come to the Isle of Wight, but will they breed here? The red kite, Milvus milvus, is the largest bird of prey that was once a common sight throughout Britain, not only out of the countryside, but also in towns and cities, where it was welcomed for its habit of scavenging all sorts of carrion and offal from the streets. They rarely go for live prey as they are weak hunters, but will take rats, voles and anything small, including beetles and worms, which is why they will follow behind a plough to feed on whatever is unearthed. In the 16th and 17th centuries, it was mistakenly believed that kites were a threat to livestock, and they were persecuted mercilessly to the extent that by 1871 in England and 1879 in Scotland, the bird was extinct. A small population, however, survived in Wales. Occasionally, a stray migrant would turn up in Britain from the continent, only to be shot on sight, as happened to the only 19th century record for the Isle of Wight when one was killed in September 1876. In the 20th century, the RSPB and English Nature, as it was then, started a programme of reintroduction, and between 1989 and 1994, kites were brought over from Spain and released in England and Scotland. In England, the scheme has been spectacularly successful. Initially started in the Chilterns, there is now something like 4,000 pairs in the country. But in Scotland there are only a few. The management of the many shooting estates is to blame, where birds of prey are not tolerated. In Wales, the tiny population clung on and almost vanished, but helped by conservationists, they just survived. In 1992, in mid-Wales, a farmer and his son started leaving rabbits their dog had caught in one of their fields, and one day 2 red kites came down to the carcasses. This was the start of another success story, and with the help of the RSPB, this is now an official feeding centre with up to 600 kites a day. The red kite is best described as a long-winged, elegant bird with a distinctive forked tail, making it easy to identify. Over the last few years, it has been seen on the island regularly and in most months of the year. Many of them are returning first-year immatures from the continent, as the main population is resident in the UK and do not migrate. It is to be hoped they will eventually establish a breeding population on the island and become commonplace as they are on the mainland.
And now we have what's on. On Sunday the 5th of March, there's an earthquake disaster concert at 3 p.m, and it's a concert by the New Church Malvoice Choir and guest artists to raise donations for monies to aid the rebuilding of the lives of those affected by the earthquakes in Turkey and Syria. It's at All Saints Church, Ryde, Queen's Road in Ryde, and more information can be given by Bob Cooper 1948 at yahoo.co.uk or telephone him on 0784 643 8909.
On Friday the 31st of March, there's a night at the movies, starting at 7:30 p.m, £10 a ticket. A concert by the Medina Marching Band raising money to send the band to Belgium in May 2023. It's featuring guest performance from the Isle of Wight Music Centre Wind Band, Christ the King College, Wellington Road, Newport Medina Marching Band at gmail.com. The telephone number is 0783 7792 518.
Sheila Buckley will be giving a talk entitled Smugglers on the Isle of Wight to the Yarmouth Society at the town's community centre this Tuesday at 6 p.m. for a 6:30 p.m. start. Tea, coffee and a cash-only bar will be there. All are welcome, and it's £3 for visitors.
Ventnor revetment is off limits until next year. A seawall that partially collapsed during storms in Ventnor has been temporarily stabilised, though the revetment is not likely to reopen to the public until the end of next winter. Specially engineered rock bags have been used to fill the hole, which opened up along the Eastern Cliff Esplanade last November. The Isle of Wight Council's next priority is to make urgent repairs to maintain the seawall and restore the esplanade to prevent further damage.
Essential work is happening at Newport Library, so the new Lord Louis Library in Newport is set to undergo essential works, which is scheduled to start this month and continue until July. The library will remain open for the majority of this time, but will close for 1 week from Monday, March the 20th, and potentially again for a further week at the end of the work in July. This is to allow the staff to remove all the books and items in and out of the front half of the building. The library will reopen on March the 27th, but will operate from the Children's Library only, which can be accessed by the doors that open onto Church Lytton. Rob Jones, the council's library service manager, said, although there may be some temporary inconvenience due to construction work, the end result will be worth it. Please remember you will still be able to use all of the online services while the library is closed for a short time at the start and the end of the work.
The next West Wight Arts Association concert will be given by Thomas Luke, the island's young star pianist. Thomas was the winner of the keyboard section of the BBC Young Musician Competition 2020. He will perform on Saturday, March the 11th at Freshwater Memorial Hall at 7 p.m. Tickets are available from www.westwightarts.co.uk or Tottenham Parish Office on 756028.
And now we have some letters. Joey takes first peek at the world. How cute is this? There is a new arrival at popular farm attraction Tapnell Farm Park. Coco, one of the farm's Bennett's wallaby females, has been showing off her little Joey. Staff think the baby is about 4 months old. A spokesman said for the next 10 months or so the Joey will start to pop in and out of the pouch until they become so big they simply won't fit back in, although that doesn't stop them trying. They know Mum's pouch is the warmest, safest place to be. Why not come and visit Coco and sneak a peek at her Joey and say hello to the rest of the wallaby mob? The farm park is open Thursdays to Sundays during term time.
Let the facts speak for themselves. Bob Seeley, Isle of Wight MP. I always enjoy reading the County Press letters page. Last week, Tracy wrote on the subject of an island deal, and I'm always happy to provide an update. When I became the island's MP, I promised a better deal for the island. I'd achieved that by working with everyone, the council, the NHS, as well as private and public groups, to make sure we were listened to in Whitehall. Rather than give you an opinion, I'll let the facts speak for themselves. The island has seen over £120 million of extra investment since I became MP. That includes, first, a £48 million investment in the NHS building work at St Mary's, which is ongoing and also includes a new diagnostics centre to speed up the delivery of tests, scans and checks. Second, £50 million for Island Line and Ryde Railway pier rebuilds. The pier work will be completed in late spring, and then Island Line will run a 2 trains per hour service. Third, a heavy lift via vessel crane has gone to East Cowes to help island shipbuilding that will create more jobs in shipbuilding. Fourth, Isle of Wight College is receiving millions as part of its investment programme to offer more and better courses for younger islanders. There have been other achievements too. We saved Sandown School from closure, secured the Ventnor Quays site for the good of the island. We're a priority investment area for Southern Water to improve sewerage discharges and a priority area for the Arts Council. We've also got a roads policing unit back on the island, important as we have the most dangerous roads in Britain outside of London. There are also pilot schemes to make sure that we are at the front of the queue for good ideas that improve our lives. Islanders I talk with understanding that getting a better deal for the island is not a one-off bag of cash, but ensuring that day in, day out we are getting a better deal. That means better jobs, services and life opportunities. That is what I came into politics to achieve. It is such a privilege to be the island's MP. There's always more to do, but I promised a better deal and that's what, working with others, I am delivering.
Chris Corey from Wootton says, find a fairer way to tax people. I'm not a huge fan of the current Isle of Wight Council Alliance administration, but as far as setting an annual budget is concerned, it seems that they are the victims of circumstances beyond their control. The unfortunate fact is that the country has been living beyond its means for a very long time. Everyone wants more money spent on the NHS, on education, on defence, but no one wants to pay more tax. We want Scandinavian public services and American tax rates. The UK economy has been in relative decline for a long time. In the early 1980s, a pound sterling was worth $2.40. Today it stands at half of that, a reflection of our economic performance over that period. Without that vibrant economy, there will not be the tax revenues to fund the world-class public services people want. There are no quick fixes. Slashing taxes will not help, nor some ill-defined green revolution. It took us 2 generations to dig this hole. It will take just as long to climb out of it. No politician wants to tell you that because they want you to vote for them, so they offer plausible-sounding quick fixes, such as windfall taxes and abolishing non-dom status, as if this were any solution to structural problems. Given the mess we find ourselves in, the least we can do is try to find an efficient and just way of funding local government. Council tax is neither of those things. Here on the Isle of Wight, we have many older residents living in relatively nice homes which represent their life's work. They have an asset but often little capital and a low fixed income, yet they are asked to come up with £200 every month to cover council tax. Much fairer would be a local income tax and a local sales tax which would supplement a residence tax levied at a much lower rate than at present.
That concludes our news for this week, so it's goodbye from me, Jane.
And it's goodbye from Jerry.
The BBC In Touch programme follows and the Scaffolding News follows that.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Good evening. Good news and bad tonight on what's turned out to be something of a travel special. Later on, we'll be hearing about a new dedicated service for disabled passengers by One Train Company and what they claim it will add to the assistance already on offer. And the long-awaited news that the provision of tactile paving on platform edges at all railway stations has been significantly speeded up. Can this new deadline be met? But for one airline passenger, the experience hasn't been so positive. We're used to hearing on this programme about visually impaired passengers being left high and dry, waiting to be escorted to their flights. But what happened recently to Eleanor Burke is a new one on us. Eleanor travels regularly back and forth between the UK and Ireland, where she has relatives, with her guide dog. Normally, it's a pretty straightforward exercise. That is, until what happened to her a few weeks ago. Eleanor is with us. So just explain what happened and how it differed from what normally happens and should happen.
Good evening, Peter. I travel regularly with Ryanair. and Ryanair have provision, when you're booking your flight on the booking form to say if you require assistance. Another requirement from Ryanair is that you send them all the relevant information in relation to your guide dog. This includes my pet passport and also the yellow book, which is issued by Guide Dogs UK. And normally this goes quite smoothly.
So let me be clear, Eleanor. Do you actually need any physical documents on you as far as the evidence about your dog is concerned?
No, so this is it. So I went to go through the scanner and the security man asked me if I had a letter from the airline. I said I didn't have a hard copy letter, but that on my luggage I had all the relevant passport for the guide dog, plus the guide dog's yellow book. He said no, that wasn't good enough. He wanted a letter. On my phone, I had an email from the accessibility department at Ryanair saying that they were happy for me to travel with my guide dog. I also then had my boarding pass, which I had in electronic format. This clearly showed my seat number and that I was travelling with the guide dog.
So as far as you're concerned, at that point you had everything that you needed. The airline had everything that was needed. So what went wrong and what happened next?
Well, from what I could ascertain, the security man seemed to have really dug his heels in on this one. He contacted Ryanair by telephone to find out what was going on. It would appear that he also contacted the Ryanair representative, ground staff. She then said to me that travelling in future, I should go to the Ryanair desk once I got to the airport and I should ask for my boarding pass to be printed out. So this was news to me, and I had been kept waiting for 1 hour for all of this. One might expect there could be up to a 10-minute wait, but never 1 hour. So I was very upset by this. But I was really more upset by the way I was being treated. And I just felt that I wasn't getting the respect, just the respect of one person to another. I felt that I was being treated in a patronising way. And I felt powerless. And I know one cannot get short-tempered in these situations because otherwise one is accused of being ill-mannered. So I had to try and go along and be as patient as possible.
But given that you'd done this quite a lot of times before, were you given any explanation of, why there was a problem on this occasion?
No explanation. After 1 hour, we were just told you can go through now. It was only subsequently when I wrote in that it was suggested to me that perhaps the security person needed more training. But I really put it to Gatwick customer service that I really had felt discriminated against. Lots and lots of people were going through within that 1 hour. I was held back because I had a guide dog. Initially, I was told that they had viewed CCTV, and I was pleased with that because that authenticated what I was saying. But the customer service department felt that I had not been discriminated against. I think they were also trying to blame the pandemic, saying they had new staff since post-pandemic and maybe more training was required and more experience.
What more would you like to see done as a result of your experience? I guess a bit more than the offer of a bunch of flowers.
Oh, yes, the offer of a bunch of flowers is rather, very poor compensation, I feel, for the way I was treated. I would really leave that up to Gatwick Airport to, make me some form of suitable compensation in recognition of the way I had been treated, and to actually recognise that I had been treated less favourably, in other words, discriminated against on this occasion.
Eleanor Burke, thank you very much indeed. Well, listening to that has been Adam Jones. Adam is Head of Passenger Services at Gatwick. Adam, quite simply, if you could, why did this happen, given that it seems to be accepted generally that Eleanor had done absolutely everything she could have done and should have done to inform people she was travelling with a guide dog?
So firstly, I have to apologise profusely for Ms Burke's experience here. As you said, she had done everything right. And unfortunately, on this occasion, some of our security team didn't follow their training or our processes, which caused the issue she had in the security area. We're taking steps, obviously, having reviewed this incident, to make sure this doesn't happen again.
I mean, should people be administering security if they haven't been trained properly and don't know the rules?
We have a very large airport security team here who are all trained to the standards set by the CAA, which we're regularly audited on, and we train them for every eventuality, including this. On this occasion, like I said, I have to apologise. We let Miss Burke down. We've refocused the individuals involved to make sure they know how to act next time, and the wider security team will be briefed on what steps to take in a similar situation, and that if they're unsure, they can quickly summon a duty manager who will make sure anyone such as Miss Burke gets through really quickly.
This is actually one of the questions I was going to ask you, because one is used to, I mean, I go, as a blind person, go through security quite a lot, and you do have this problem that it's a fairly chaotic situation for a start. The rules seem to change from day to day. Do I have to take off a coat? Do I have to take off my shoes? And I frequently find myself stuck on the other side of security with a piece of my specialist equipment being sort of puzzled over, but not having the chance to talk to anybody about it. I mean, how can somebody summon qualified help when you get a problem like the one Eleanor had?
So you should absolutely be able to ask any member of our staff for help, and if you're not getting the help you need from them, they should call a duty manager who's always available in the security area to come and help. Obviously, if passengers are travelling with special assistance support from our service provider, they can, of course, also be on hand to assist you as well.
I mean, I just wonder, is this really a security issue? I mean, surely you're looking for far more important things when carrying out a security check than someone with a guide dog.
Of course, part of the security requirement is to make sure no one crosses from the land side to the air side part of the airport unless they're permitted to and are travelling. So this involves also obviously checking that any animals with them are service animals and can also go through security. As I said, that should have been a seamless, easy process for Miss Burke. It wasn't on this occasion, and we are taking steps, having reviewed the incident, to make sure it doesn't happen again.
So what lessons does Gatwick take from this incident?
Well, as part of our investigation, we have identified that across the 40 airlines who fly from Gatwick, there are some slightly different processes in letting us know that a passenger is travelling with an assistance dog. So our accessibility manager is going to work with our airlines to try and get one common process that everyone's aware of, everyone follows, and that will make it easier for our staff then to ensure they're following the correct process and procedure. And that's taking place right now.
I'd like to pick up one thing with you. Eleanor mentioned that, the pandemic got mentioned. Aren't people getting really rather fed up with the fact that the pandemic is cited every time there's a bit of a problem? I mean, the rules have relaxed now for over a year. Isn't it time that, in that sense, things are back to normal and people who are doing the job know what they're doing?
Yes, and that is absolutely not an excuse in this situation. Our customer service team, I think, pointed out that we'd hired 400 new airport security officers, so they're in the central search area. We have trained them all appropriately, but maybe we just need to review and make sure that everyone is fully aware of how to handle situations such as this. But of course, you're right. This isn't a result of the COVID pandemic.
So just to be clear, one final point, Adam, for, future travellers with guide dogs, what do they actually need to have done in order to comply with the various protocols that might be in place?
So right now, they should follow the procedure their individual airline sets down. So as Miss Burke did with Ryanair, follow Ryanair's process, and that will make sure that we get notified that a passenger is coming with an assistance dog. Whilst I know it failed on this occasion, and we'll look to make sure that process can be improved, it works the vast majority of the time, and so people just follow their normal process.
So you don't actually need, as Eleanor was told she did, to actually present any documents as you go through, any paper documents?
And that's correct. Unfortunately, as well as our security officers not following their training and process, Ryanair's handling agent at the airport also gave Miss Burke some incorrect information there. So Miss Burke, being a regular traveller through Gatwick and over to Ireland, did exactly what she should do. And as I said, I apologise for experience here, and we're going to work hard to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Adam Jones, and before that, Eleanor Burke, thank you very much. Well, taking your guide dog on the train should hopefully be a rather simpler process than taking to the air. But there are still plenty of things which can go wrong when you're on the trains, and the travel assistance offered at stations doesn't always go without a hitch. Well, now one train company, Avanti West Coast, has just launched a dedicated communications channel to provide disabled passengers with instant help during their journey, in what they're describing as a first for the UK rail industry. Called Travel Companion, it will use the messaging app WhatsApp to connect you to someone who can offer specialist support while travelling. Well, Martin Byrne and Ricky West are both visually impaired, and they've been recruited to advise on this service. Ricky, if I can come to you first, what kind of situations do you visualise where this service can be used?
We're hoping it's going to be a layer of support prior to your journey, during your journey and after your journey. So it could be your correct ticket, knowing if you've got the right one. So what you could do is get in contact with us and ask, have I got the right ticket? Because we've partnered with Be My Eyes, so an independent app that hopefully most people know about and use. That connects through to the Avanti West Coast team. That would be myself and Martin and the social media team that have had accessibility training, and we can identify that ticket for you.
So you're anticipating this is going to be used mainly by people who are travelling on their own?
It's for anyone. It's for any accessible requirement can sort of come through and get help and support. So that's a prior to your journey. During your journey, people might need to identify their seats. They may potentially have been on the journey a long time and need to identify their luggage. If they need help and support from the train manager or onboard crew, we can get in touch with them and get them to come to the passenger instead of them having to find an onboard staff member.
So if you're comparing it, for example, with the service that is offered at the moment with assistance with getting on the train, the main thing you're anticipating this is going to be useful for is actually during your journey?
Yes, during the journey. So passenger assistance is there to help you on board with connections and moving around the station.
Passenger Assist is a great service, and it's there to enrich the service, to sort of add extra value onto that. We will work hand in hand with those teams, and I think it gives that peace of mind and encourages independent travel as well. I think it hopefully builds the confidence that there is somebody there throughout the journey, because there may be an element of fear, people getting on the train, the passenger assistants walking away, and you're left on the train alone. Hopefully with this methodology and connections to ourselves, you can reach out to us if that need is there.
One point I would like to make to you, I mean, WhatsApp is still a digital service which requires the use of a smartphone. Now that still limits the number of people who can use it. Is there a non-digital alternative to this?
Now, at this point, I have to say there isn't, and I will stress this is a trial, and what we are willing to look at, and I've already investigated the options around going to text messaging. It's unfortunately, it's the sort of the in-house management to keep it real time is the challenge for management of this. But it's not to say we won't going down that route if we can get the technology in place moving forward. We understand there's going to be people out there that will use text messages only. And we are looking, hopefully long term, to get a solution in place. But as we say, for this trial at the moment, it is only WhatsApp.
Martin Byrne, Ricky West, thank you both very much. And for those of you who are interested in trying out this service, the WhatsApp number you will find on our website, address at the end of the programme. And it is true that however confident and competent a visually impaired rail traveller you might be, things do go wrong on stations which are potentially dangerous places. It's something Secker Hall knows only too well, as his recent email reminded us.
It's nearly 3 years ago that my partner, Mr. Cleveland Gervais, died at Eden Park Station. He was registered blind, and there is no tactile paving on the platform he fell from. I'm contacting you to see if you can help me find out what progress has there been on installing tactile paving across the rail network.
Well, Secker is referring to the roughened material which has been fitted to some, but by no means all, platform edges in order to give a warning that you're approaching a potential fall onto the tracks. In the inquiry which followed Secca's partner's death, which we reported on extensively on In Touch, it was established that the lack of such a tactile warning was a contributory factor to his partner's death. Well, we and a number of organisations representing blind people, such as the RNIB and Guide Dogs, have been persistently drawing attention to the fact that Network Rail had initially said that without more resources, they couldn't complete this work until 2029. But in the light of Mr Hall's request for more information to us, we've been seeking confirmation from Network Rail and the Department for Transport that reports of more government money being available could be confirmed. Well, in a statement, Network Rail have told us our programme to install tactile platforms continues, bolstered by £75 million, which we were given by government last year. The programme is making good progress now with cross-industry help from train operating companies, and it covers England, Wales and Scotland at all stations where tactile platforms had not been part of existing renewal plans. The funding runs until March 2025. Well, this sounds like good news and is certainly being interpreted as such by the RNIB and Guide Dogs. We are still trying to ascertain if funding continues until March 2025 can be interpreted as work will be completed by 2025. But as we record this programme, we've still not had that confirmation. Watch this space and meanwhile listen out for this temporary safety solution, which you'll hear at a number of stations.
Please be aware that some platforms at this station have no or only partial tactile paving on the platform edge.
You have been warned. Well, that's it for today. Contacting us does make a difference. You can email In Touch at bbc.co.uk, leave a voice message on 0161 836 1338, or go to our website bbc.co.uk/In Touch, where you'll also find that WhatsApp number. From me, Peter White, producer Beth Hemmings and studio manager Amy Brennan, goodbye.
Scaffolding and skip news, week beginning 6th of March 2023. Newport area. Co-op Pyle Street. Halifax 116 High Street. Thompson's Restaurant South Street. Game 29 St James Street. 31 Melbourne Street. 11 Trafalgar Road. 11 St James Street, Lugley Street, 62 Castlehold Lane. Skips in the Newport area can be found at 51 Shide Road, 2 Hogan Road, Newport. Ride area scaffolding, 51 to 52 High Street, 71 High Street, 67 High Street, 36 Castle Street, Wetherspoons, 41 to 43 Union Street. Skips in the ride area can be found at Wisteria House, 105 High Street, Bembridge, and 2 Pier Road, Seaview.
Cows area, 28 Denmark Road, 13 Shooters Hill, 33 St Andrews Street, and Kirby of Cows in the High Street. Yarmouth area, Plavina House, South Street. Ventnor area, 29 West Street, Strauss South Street, which is Tower. Totland area, Totland Post Office, the Broadway. Meadow Barn, Western Road. Sandown area, 85 High Street. And Shanklin area, 4 Esplanade and 67 High Street.